everyone, welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. I'm here with Paul, Kyle, Rob and Lee. This is going to be the player ratings of the season. This video is sponsored by OneFootball. OneFootball is the app that Lee's downloaded, that everyone's downloaded on our own phones as well, to tell us what is going to be.
My phone will smash.
Yeah, exactly. This will tell us all the information on the Premier League, Champions League final as well in a couple of weeks as well. So we're going to start with the goalkeepers as it normally should be. So we're going to start with Martin Dubravka. Paul, what would you say out of 10 with Martin Dubravka?
He's been absolutely mint all season. Yeah, he's had those couple of wobbles, but look at every other keeper, they've had them as well. I think again, fantastic signing. 9, gotta be 9 out of 10, straight off.
Kyle, yes, he had a couple of mistakes. Obviously, you look at the Wolves game, the Tottenham game, Man United game. Do you think 9's a credible score, even though with those mistakes?
Despite the mistakes, mate, bar them 3 mistakes, has he put a foot wrong all season? No, he hasn't.
Has he put a hand wrong all season?
You know what I mean, but like...
More saves than Superman. Come on, more saves than Superman and Batman.
He's gained 1 more point than he's lost.
I agree that it's a 9, isn't it?
Yeah, 9 out of 10. Let's go with Freddie Woodman. He played a couple of the cup games. Blackburn, obviously home and away. Played the didn't play Nottingham Forest, played the Watford game rather. Lee, on this one, it's a player that has a year left on his contract as well. Overall, is he worth keeping? And what would you give mark-wise?
I'd move him up to number 2 and get rid of the other 2. I said that last year as well. Get him on a long-term deal and say, right, okay, this is what you're having. But it's what you would say. I wouldn't say it's it's his breakthrough season, because he's now playing games, but he hasn't played enough. So he's played 3 games. So it's a breakthrough season. Yes, didn't play enough. 6. I'll give him a 6.
Rob, what do you think about Freddie Woodman's situation? Do you feel that he maybe should be given a chance, like Lee says, as a number 2, or do you feel maybe Darlow and even Elliott are better than him?
Yeah, I think he should be given a chance to be the backup goalkeeper, because I mean he's proven himself at all youth levels for England and the youth level for Newcastle. So I think now is the time to sort of bring him into that fold. You know, he's had a few first team appearances over the past couple of seasons now, and I was in the home game against Blackburn in the 3rd round of the Cup. I think every time Blackburn had a corner, they just sort of tried to bully him into sort of surrounding him, and I think he dealt with that really well. He never let it get him down, and he only conceded 1 goal at the end. So I was proud for him in that respect. 6 is a fair rating, and yeah, just sort of hope he has more of a Newcastle career ahead of him.
Definitely, so 6 out of 10 for Freddie Woodman. Let's move to the defenders, because Carl Darlow only played 1 game for Newcastle, and it wasn't very good. Yeah, it wasn't very good. We're not going to get Paul on because we'll be here next week for that one. So let's start with Kieran Clark, number 2. Newcastle's number 2. He's played more from the start this season. Kyle, do you feel maybe his future lies elsewhere now, because he seems to be like the last choice defender under Rafa's eyes, if Rafa's still here next season as well? I think
Clark has got to go. Like, he's been very solid when called upon. In fact, he scored 3-4 goals this season as well, despite not being in the team. He's better than. To be fair, I could put him as a 3rd choice striker instead of Josler, but no, I think Clark has got to go to play first team football, because I think he actually warrants it. I think a team like Leeds, Aston Villa, Derby, them teams fighting to come up next season, well, one of them will be, and 2 of them will be in anyway, but yeah, a team like that would be good for Kieran Clark. But in terms of his rating throughout the season, I'd give him a 6. He's been solid when called upon, scored a couple of goals, but just hasn't been good enough to break into that
done nothing wrong as well when he has played, has he?
Yeah, bar the Forest game, like Darlow.
I would agree with 6, but I was thinking 5 because of that Forest game. That absolutely graded me, that game.
Played out of position though, wasn't he?
He was as bad as Atsu on the night, and that is saying something. I think he'll end up going to a lower league club, somebody like I don't know, Sunderland, somebody like that. Yeah, a lower league club.
I'll let you continue with Paul Dummett. We're also going to give Kieran Clark a 6 out of 10. Paul Dummett. Obviously, roles reversed. He didn't really play much from the start of the season. Kind of put his way back into the end from the end of the season. He's been more of a regular. I think with Paul Dummett, he's very much a steady Eddie, and I think he hasn't really let the club down this season or the last 2 seasons, to be truthful. So, how do you think his performances have been this season?
Obviously, he hasn't played that much compared to so many other players, so it might be a bit sort of harsh to make a judgment on him, but I think he's been solid when called upon, and he's going back to his original centre-back position in recent times, and he's done a good solid job. I remember the Bournemouth game when he did that acrobatic.
The clearance off the line.
It would have been disallowed, sadly for him. But that was.
No, was he?
Yeah,
it was class.
Didn't know at the time. Absolutely fantastic. And actually, if you recall, opening day of last season, he got injured for about up until about Christmas, and during that time, he went to have treatment in London, and I actually met the doctor who sort of treated him. So yeah.
Shout out to that doctor, by the way, because I think he's actually really, he's exclusive, isn't he?
He's always going to give you a 7 out of 10 performance. So he's a bit of a home banker. You know he's going to get that. He's not a left back. He's certainly not a left wing back. But in this free at the back system, it suits him. Yeah. He's looked fantastic, and whatever score we give him in the end, it's got to be above 7 out of 10. He always hits the 7s. Yeah, sometimes 8s and 9s. So I think 8's a pretty fair score.
Rafa said it himself. He's Mr. Reliable, and he can always bang on Dummett to play well. And under Rafa, I think Dummett has been one of his better players, to be fair. So I'd say 8 was a fair.
8 out of 10. Yeah. Brilliant. So Lee, we'll go on with the captain, Jamal Lascelles. This is one that'll be debated in the comments, but
I'll get stick for this now.
No, but the thing.
I did on Facebook, mind.
But the thing is, right, Lee, captain of the football club. At the end of last season, we were talking England call it, maybe get moved to a bigger club, etc., etc. He has still had good games this season. If I'm playing devil's advocate, yes, he's had poor games, but just like any defender for Newcastle anyway in the last 20 years. But he's still one of our best defenders that we've had in a long time. Is that
hard?
It's not hard, but do you not think because of the fact that we expect more from Jamal Lascelles is why we're probably a bit disappointed? Maybe the end of the season, maybe the Liverpool game sticks out in particular.
It's a tough one with him because he hasn't last season. He set the bar, and that's what he's got to get back to. I think he's had better games than poor games, marginally mind. I think it's probably a 60-40 swing for me, but I'll keep him. Obviously, we'll do another video on that, but. He's a leader as a captain, yes, take that for granted, but that shouldn't demand or command a place in the starting 11 for me. I think he's been poor, but like you said, he has had some good games as well, so I'll score him a 6, I'll go with.
Paul, the importance of Florian Lejeune next to Jamal Lascelles seems to be the reason why Newcastle have won more games than they've lost. So if them two are playing at the heart of our defence, you feel more comfortable. Do you think Lascelles feels more comfortable with Lejeune next to him?
I think it's a good point. I agree with what Lee's said, previously. He has been up and down. He has become a father as well this season, and that does have a big effect. Your personal life, your personal circumstances change, and that is undoubtedly going to have an effect professionally as well. I would agree. Again, he's had more positive games than he's had negative games. He does prefer, I think, playing with Lejeune. He is our best defender, Lejeune. I think we can all agree on that. I wouldn't sell Lascelles though. I think we need to keep him. Defensively, we've been really, really good. One of the best teams down in the bottom half of the table easily. So yeah, I agree. 6 out of 10 is a very, fair score considering, again, the very high standards that he's capable of.
Anybody go higher or lower, or do you think 6 is a fair?
I'll give him a 6 on Facebook, and I got told I was harsh, so comments that would let Paul know if he's being a bit harsh on Lascelles, but
other people thought you were being generous by giving him 6. It's a very it's a very touchy subject with how well Lascelles did this season, but one thing's for sure, if Rafa stays, I'm sure his preferred back three would be Lejeune, Shaw and Lascelles.
Definitely. I would have gone for a 7. Get your comments in. Do you think Lascelles warrants more than a 6, less than a 6? I'm sure it's one debate that you'll have online.
He doesn't want to get any stick on the comments. That's
No. I generally think we
sitting on Mark's.
No. Kind of sit on Mark's fence.
It's been painted.
No, for me, the reason why I'd give Lascelles a 7 in particular is because yes, he's had a couple of poor games, but I'm going to go back to what I said before. We've had worse defenders on him, and I think it's particularly after Christmas when Newcastle kind of got on a little bit of a roll after the Cardiff game, where we beat Cardiff, beat Manchester City, got points against Wolves, should have got points against Tottenham. Throughout that spell, that was probably when we were playing pretty well. So I think personally, Jamal Lascelles should get a 7.
I actually think Lascelles has been the worst out of the 5. If you include all the 5s, I know Kieran Clark hasn't played many games because Kieran Clark done much wrong.
No, but
I'm telling you,
Forest.
Scarred.
But I think Lascelles out of 5. It doesn't matter how many games they played, 50, 30, 10. I think Lascelles has been the worst out of the 5, me.
Could have won the league, but no, Forest. Give him a 2.
Rob, I'll let you start with Javier Manquillo. Because Paul will probably be here for the end of next season.
I've got
it in a list on the Premier League website, so There's exactly. Other websites are available. No, Javier Manquillo. Do you think that he's played better from the end of the season? You look at the Brighton game, Liverpool game, where he kind of justified that he was a little bit better than what maybe Newcastle fans thought. But on the whole, has it just been a bit of a disappointment for Javier Manquillo?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Towards the end of the season, he did show decent moments. Nothing stand out in the whole array of performances. But he had decent moments, but at the same time, with how badly Yedlin has played, and Manquillo, he's just not a Premier League quality player. Right back is definitely a place that we need to strengthen over the summer, without doubt. That's first on the shopping list for me.
And what would be your mark?
Bethan.
I like that one. That's one of your better ones, to be fair.
5, I think. It might be a.
I think that's harsh. I think a 6 is more fair.
I think that's nosebleed territory.
I think he's performed better in the second half of the season when he's come in.
I just think it's because we've got so little there that we're like, oh yeah, he had these little bits. But to me, it's like opening up the box of chocolates on Christmas Day, finding out.
Puffs.
Finding out you've got just a load of coffee creams. it's awful. The right wing back position is the first one, well, the second after Rondon, that should be looked at.
I think he's had a better second half of the season than what Yedlin has, which I'm sure we'll touch upon.
I think
he's like Owen Brad Chris or something, isn't he? It's just you don't know where to start. He's just been, I call him man shit, or he's just not good enough. I was there for the Wolves game, and he's just sitting there as if he's just pushing his trolley around the supermarket without a care in the world.
Dale Winton comes along.
Yeah,
that's the 90s kids, that one.
He probably could have done a better job, and I know people are going to jump in the comments and you're criticising. I'm just calling a spade, right? That is all I'm doing. He's not good enough. He's never been good enough. He never will be good enough. We need to get rid of him. He's been one of the poorest players in the squad, and I'd rather have played Joslu at right wing back. That's saying something, because he's absolutely.
That's really saying something.
I'm not as.
We need a rating.
That's not as bad as that, but if I was giving Manquillo a rating, I'd give him a 4 out of 10.
So 4, 5, 6.
I think for Manquillo's standards, he's had a good season, but it's Manquillo at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And he's like a Newcastle defender of old. Like, if he plays well, you know a catastrophe's around the corner. Yeah. Remember when we had Titus Bramble and defenders like that, and they'd play really well for 89 minutes, and then 90 minutes, the 90th minute he's fell on his arse and the player run throughs, or Boom Song, or flipping Rosenhall, or Kasaba. I could go on. He's that calibre defender.
Lauren Charvet was better at right back, wasn't he? Let's be honest. And to be fair, I'd wish Mr. and Mrs. Manquillo never had met. He's put me through the ring.
Right, we've got a 4, a 5 and a 6. I'm going to overrule everybody. I'm going to go 5 out of 10.
5 as well.
Yeah, 5 out of 10. I think that's probably in the middle. So that's in the middle. I'm going to let Kyle continue with Florian Lejeune. He's been a rock at the back, and I think we've touched about how the importance of him being our best centre half. Again, does he just lift everybody's performances? There's that extra 10-15% because of him playing.
I mean, Johnny only played 12 games this season, and what an impact he made. I think in that time we won half our games, which the majority were at home. He helped fix our home form, which was terrible at the start of the season, and he played a major part in us staying up. I know he played only a handful of games in the league, but what a difference he made, and I think he was one of the pivotal reasons we did stay up. For me, I think he deserves an 8. He was fantastic, especially that game against Man City. Not many teams can contain Man City's attack. I mean, look at how many goals they've scored this season in all competitions. They blew the league with 98 points. I mean, and Lejeune, with the help of Lascelles and Shaw and the defence on that day, managed to contain them. And I think Lejeune was a massive part of that. I'd give Lejeune an 8. He was fantastic every game, consistent.
Do you agree, Rob? Do you think maybe 8 out of 10, maybe even 9 out of 10? He has been a rock since when he plays. Obviously hasn't played as much, but when he does play, you can tell that we look a bit more steady at the back.
I completely agree with Kyle on the one exception that I'd say 9 out of 10 instead. I mean, when he got injured in pre-season at the start of the season, that was such a big blow for us, and we were expecting him to be back around April time, and then he comes back in January and he plays like it's as if he's never been away. He was that good. Most players, when they're being injured for such a long time, they need time to sort of ease their way back into it. Yeah,
there's something psychologically he was scared of. He just, it's as if he was never injured at all. He just got on with it. It's fantastic, great play, bargain.
We're going 8 or 9.
7.
7? What?
Because he was injured for 3/4 of the season.
Just wanting
No, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. It's because he was missing for 3/4 of the season. I've got to mark him down for that.
But how many points did Newcastle get while Florian Lejeune was playing? I bet that was half than what we probably got all season.
He's a bad defender. He was absolutely great, but the fact he wasn't available for 3/4 of the season, I have to knock him down for that. And I know that's not his fault. I'm harsh, but if a player isn't available, so
I'm going to go 9. Kill me in the comments, but I'm going 9 out of 10. I think you can just.
You won't get killed. I think Lee will.
I will get killed because when he played, I would go with Rob a 9, but because he wasn't available, I'll knock him down to 7 for 3/4 of the season.
It's not like he's getting injured on purpose, so really.
Yeah, I know, but he's not available for the squad, so I'm marking this on injury, form, and availability.
I bet he's relieved because he didn't have to play alongside Manquillo for too much. To be honest, he's thinking, next season I'll be back and he'll be gone.
So we're going to go 9 out of 10. There's 2 9s and 8 and a 7, so we'll go 9 because we're being outnumbered. Lee, I'll let you continue with DeAndre Yedlin. This is going to be an interesting one, but Manquillo, we've talked about the fact that he was ahead of Yedlin at the end of the season, where marking Manquillo at a 4. What does Yedlin get?
It's got to be either the same or slightly around that. Good start of the season. Got a goal at Manchester City on the counter. Great goal. Started to tail off, didn't he? He was getting found out a lot, and a lot of teams were targeting him around November, December, January. They were all targeting that flank, and that was a really concern for us at that time. And then Manquillo was in for a few games, and he was back out. Yedlin, then he just lost his place completely. So it's his worst season that he's had.
Do you think his injury played into it? 'Cause obviously he was carrying a knock for quite a while before.
Possibly, but I just think with Yedlin and Manquillo, one of them is a good squad player. That's it. We need a first team right back. So Yedlin, I'm going to be kind and say 5.
I agree. I think 5 out of 10 is a fair mark. Paul, do you think that maybe right back in particular? I know we're talking about players and their ratings, but do you think DeAndre Yedlin, Javier Manquillo, will be thinking, I think maybe a right back's going to come in over the summer, or a right wing back's going to come in over the summer if Rafa's in charge?
They've got to, because like they said, every single game that we play, we get targeted down that flank, and it's just easy. It doesn't take much to get in between or out the back of them. The positional sense of both players are absolutely terrible. The best part of Manquillo dribbled down his mother's leg, and to me, like I said, DeAndre Yedlin, I love seeing him go forward.
I'm going to get hate in this video.
Well, it's like, to me, I mean, I like DeAndre Yedlin. I like his directness, his pace. I think he'd be a great substitute to have on. If you're bringing him on with the game, you may be chasing a game and you're looking for something to get burst forward, make something happen across a shot or something like that. But it is one of the absolute priorities that we get this situation and position sorted out, because we're good defensively, but that is our Achilles heel. That right wing back role is certainly up for grabs. I'll get rid of Manquillo, I'd free transfer him, I'd do whatever, send him to Sunderland, I don't really care. I'd maybe want to keep Yedlin. I think a 5 out of 10 is a fair enough score. But we need to sign someone.
5 out of 10 for DeAndre Yedlin. I don't think this guy's going to get 5 out of 10, but it is Newcastle's number 5, and that is Fabian Schär. Kyle, we've talked about the importance of Lejeune. We've talked about the importance of Lejeune. We've talked about the importance of the Lascelles. But for £3.5 million, cheaper than Will Grigg.
Scored more goals than Will Grigg as well.
Yes. Fabian Schär's on fire. But most defences that he's been playing have been more petrified of him than Hostler, haven't they?
Pretty much. I mean, look, the goal that he scored against Burnley, oh my god, I mean,
filth. Absolute pornography.
Filth. And then he's
football pornography.
to quote me from earlier in the season, he scored against Cardiff as well. For a defender, he's so comfortable on the ball. Like, you look at these defenders that go for 30 plus million. Like, remember when Eloquim Mangala went to Man City for 30 plus million, and look at the state of him. We brought in Schär for £3.5 million, and what an absolute steal. Like, I remember watching him in the World Cup and thinking, we've got a decent defender on our hands, but honestly, he's even surprised my standards, because they were quite high with him coming in. But honestly, man, he's been brilliant ever since he came in the second half of that Watford game. He's just changed the whole complexion of Newcastle's defence, because he's been a part of it ever since. And I think he's the first 10 of the video. Honestly, he's been that consistent all season, putting in great tackles, scoring some great goals, being a part of play, helping the midfield out. He's just had one of the few perfect seasons in Newcastle this season, I think.
Rob, is he the player of the season for Newcastle?
Obviously, you've got a number of players to sort of take that accolade. And for me personally, he does fully deserve that. And I think in terms of value for money, forget signing of the season. This is best signing value for money wise for a long time, I think.
Demba Ba maybe in the value of things.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But yeah, he's such a fantastic player, such a joy to watch. Scored more goals than Hosselu at the end of the season. So
anything less than a 10, Lee?
Because he didn't get in that first team. I'm going the same trend. Couldn't get in the first team for a good 2 to 3 months, and then he made it his own. So that's the only reason why I'll score him down as a 9. But I know, but he's got to get in. You've got to command it. You've got to get in. Injuries, out of form, and that's what I'm rated on. So brilliant buy, 9 out of 10. Awesome.
Paul, 9 or 10?
It's got to be 10. He is the signing of the season. Absolute bargain, and there's no wonder the likes of Spurs and stuff are sniffing about him.
Sorry, Libby, being outnumbered, we'll go 10.
I'm happy for this one to be outvoted for.
10 out of 10 for Fabian Shaw.
Shaw's his man, crushing his marking him down.
It's because he wasn't available, that's why. Well, he was available, he couldn't get in the first team.
I thought he was available for something else there, but we'll leave that one for another video.
You want to tell us something, Johnny?
I think. Well, you said he was his man crush, apparently, wasn't he?
No, he's not a big. He's a beautiful, elegant man. We'll come on to Rondon later.
Yeah. Federico Fernandez, Paul. Steady centre half, but not as good as the rest. I think that's probably the best way to sum him up this season.
Yeah, he does what it says on the tin. He was brought in as a he was brought in to do a job, wasn't he? Because we had the injury to Lejeune, and when he came in, he looked as if he'd been playing, for us for such a long while. He looked steady Eddie. He looked really good at the back. He had the odd blip here and there, but I think, to be fair to him, when we've needed him, he's been there.
Yeah.
But when we haven't needed him, he hasn't overly complained and rocked the boat and that sort of thing. I think he's a cracking squad player to have, and I think he's got to be worth at least a 7. At least a 7.
I would agree. In the first half of the season, I'll player of the season for me. And then again, the way I'm doing it, he lost his place, so I have to mark him down. Come in a couple of games, the Bournemouth game, he was all over the place, but
he wasn't match ready though, was he?
But I would agree with Paul, 7 because he lost his place.
We'll go 7 out of 10 for Federico Fernandez. We're not going to talk about Antonio Barreca because he only played 4.5 minutes exactly.
We witnessed it.
We witnessed it.
Newcastle Fans TV witnessed it.
I give you, Rob. Antonio Barreca is the only player to play at Wembley, and he didn't play before or after for Newcastle.
Let's go to the midfield, and we'll start with Newcastle's goal scorer from the weekend against Fulham, Kyle Jonjo Shelvey. This is going to divide opinions. He has been injured. He has played. Well, it might be. We'll see what people think. He has played. He scored a goal at the end of this season. Hasn't really played a lot of football, which I think he's been openly frustrated about. What did you make of his season just as a whole? Really
frustrating for him. I mean, he was really unlucky because at the start of the season he didn't really play very well. Then he got injured, and the resurgence of Key came about. He started coming back from injury. Then Longstaff came out of nowhere, and then Hayden came out of nowhere, and then Key came back from the Asian Cup when Longstaff got injured. So like he just fell through the cracks a little bit, and I'm happy he got that goal against Fulham because it gave him a nice end of the season, and something that makes it worthwhile. But I can't give him any more than a 5, mate, honestly. Like, it's been really frustrating for him, but he fell through the cracks and he couldn't get back into the lineup, so I'll go for what I went with on my Facebook review for him, which was a 5.
Rob, is that harsh?
It's a fair ranking. I'd say 6 probably. It has been a frustrating season for him. He does have quality that we've seen in the past, but unfortunately this season it's just sort of fallen short of those sort of expectations that he's lived up to in the past, and of course having Key, Longstaff, Hayden, all having the other central midfielders play instead of Shelvey, something there has worked for the team, and of course the team has to come first.
I think the issue is, Paul, with Jonjo Shelvey, is that first day of the season, if he's still at the football club and Longstaff's still at the football club and Key's around and Hayden probably won't be, he still doesn't start, does he?
He doesn't, and he's too good of a player to leave out. I've said before, and he needs to be scoring more goals. The lad this season could be sponsored by Elastoplast. He's missed that many games and injuries and various bits and bobs, and it just never ever got going. But you've seen that goal against Fulham, and he has got everything in the locker to be a fantastic player, but does he do it consistently? No. Is he in and out of the team? Yes. He's on a lot of money, and I can see a transfer happening this summer, to be honest. I agree with around about a 5 to 6 because you've got to consider again, it's the game time, isn't it? The game time's got to come into a factor.
You're agreeing with me now.
With this one, and the thing is, one goal. Is it one goal?
Yeah, there's one goal.
It's not enough for John Joe Shelby.
Getting double figures every year.
He should be, and he's capable of so much more. But the thing is, every time we used to play him, he used to stick the ball in the net against us, and it was really, really frustrating. When he came in, I was hoping he'd be like the Gary Speed-esque, player who notches quite regular. But it just hasn't worked out, and I think this season, I think a 5 or a 6. I'd say a 6 because he ended on a positive note, but I do think he'll be off come the summer, probably to West Ham.
Lee, do you see John Joe Shelby being in a Newcastle shirt first game of the season?
Well, I want to keep him because of the squad depth. He's great. If he's a bench player, then so be it. I know he's not going to be happy, but I know.
Actually, structure that we've got come here forward.
I'd like him to see him stay, but even when he has been on, I think he's only influenced a maximum of 3 games as well. So we haven't actually missed him like we relied on the last 2 seasons. So
it's the first time we haven't missed him, though.
Aye, there's only been about 3 games, so 5 for me.
2 people have said 5, 2 people have said 6. I'll have the deciding vote. I'm going to go 6 out of 10 just for that goal against Fulham. And plus his impact against Everton was really, really good. So
where's that fence?
I know, slightly generous, but I'm going to go 6 out of 10. Lee, I'll let you continue with Mo Diarmi.
You get all the best ones.
Why am I getting all the negative?
Because you're the one that's going to get the negative comments.
I'll take the heat.
Mo Diarmi, probably not going to beat Newcastle next season. How do you make of his final season at Newcastle?
Awful, innit? Form has dropped massively. All that carry on with the contract, if he started those 2 games, he'll trigger it. I think that's in his back of his mind. I think that's probably played a little bit in Rafa's back of the mind, in particular towards the back end of the season. How many good games can you say when we interview all the fans after the games? Diarmi was great today, Diarmi was great. I can't remember off the top of my head anybody. Last season, it was constantly his name was being brought up. So,
do you not think he's a bit like a midfield Titus Bramble?
I think that's a bit harsh in my opinion.
When we were saying oh, he's better than Pogba when we beat Man U last year 1-0, and it's
wind them up, Lee.
Yeah, no, but we was better than Pogba that day, but awful season. I think it's been very, very poor. But
maybe Grand's been better than Pogba. Like she's been gone a couple of years now.
I will score him a 4.
Rob, is that a bit harsh again? Even a couple of performances where you maybe thinking he was maybe the Diarmi of old from last season, but doesn't really offer defence. He's a defensive midfielder under Rafa, isn't he? Where maybe under West Ham at Wigan he was more of an attacking midfielder. Do you think 4's a bit harsh, or do you agree with Lee on this score?
4's a fair one, and at the same time I think 5 might be pushing it a bit too much on the generous front. He's just a typical Championship player, to be honest. I think that second half of the season, last season, when he found that brilliant run of form.
Crystal Palace after him, Rob. Crystal Palace have been credited with an interest.
I could see him going there.
Yeah, I can see it.
To be fair though, before he got injured, he led the league in tackles. So before
then again, he lost all the ball, didn't he? He was up there at the top as well.
His passing's never been great, but he before he got injured, he was one of our better players because we hadn't won at the time, and he was one of the stand-out-ish players. Like, it wasn't hard to stand out in the team, but he managed to do so. So I think a 4 is criminal for him. I'd say a 5.
Criminal.
I'd say a 5 or a 6 for him because he hasn't made like any catastrophic mistakes which has led to like a loss like a Yedlin has, or maybe a Manquillo. So I'd say a 5 or even a 6 for him because he's been solid at times. He hasn't. It's not like he's been awful and you've been like Diarmi, get him out the door, because you've said there hasn't been anyone saying oh Diarmi's been great, but not many have said Diarmi's been absolutely shocking either. Do you know what I mean?
I think personally as well, despite what Rafa said, the fact that he played 1 game less than the contract clause,
so that tells you something.
And I think Rafa probably wants him out the door. I think he's not been as bad as your Manquillos and stuff like that. He's not in that awful sort of group. But he's been a middle of the park. I think a 5 would be a fair. And a thank you for your service, but you are the midfield Titus Bramble. Goodbye. It would be what I would say.
Another deciding vote. 2 4s and 2 5s.
Shades of Van Robinson there.
Yeah.
2 4s, 2 5s. I'm going to go 5 out of 10 have the deciding vote. So Kyle, the next player is Newcastle's magic man, Matt Ritchie. Everyone talks about this effort, and you could probably give it 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 for effort. In terms of on the pitch, Kyle, do you think maybe 6, 7? That's the kind of mark I'm looking at. Maybe 7 out of 10 for him.
I'll give him an 8. I think his work ethic's always there, like you touched on. But he's one of I think he's in the top 2 assists for the team this season. He's nipped in with
6 or 7, hasn't he?
6 or 7 assists. Yeah, his crosses into Rondon have been really good.
I think he's got the second most crosses behind Luca Digne from Everton, so he's right up there.
Yeah,
and he's a midfielder playing totally in a foreign position, and he's stuck to it like a duck to water, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, if that lad was on the Titanic, it wouldn't have sank because he works that much. So
He'll be the little boat.
yeah, he would have. He would have got them one by one onto the boat. He'd have rowed them to New York, gone back, and he'd got everybody off. No fatalities at all. He's that good. His work ethic, is that good. But I think it doesn't do him enough of a service. I said before, he huffs, he puffs. But you look at that goal against Bournemouth. Oh my God!
And that's a crucial point in the end of the season as well.
It was filth, that wasn't it? And he would have loved it against them lot. Yeah, it must have been bloody brilliant sitting there going, "Have that."
I loved it as well. To be fair, I was at home. I wasn't at Bournemouth watching it, but before you start, I know Bournemouth, right? But
how you pronounce it? I didn't bring it up
because you were looking at it so But it was a really good goal, and I think he's had a really good season, adapting to a new position. I mean, Rafa brought Baraka in to play left wing back, and as Johnny touched on earlier, he's played 4 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Ritchie deserves an 8, and I'd even argue for a 9.
I'll go 8.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think people look at that Matt Ritchie penalty as well against Manchester City. The pressure, the fact you had to wait 2.5 minutes just to take the penalty. I think I've been outvoted on this one. I think.
If you want to rely on anyone to wait 2.5 minutes to take a penalty in that Newcastle squad, though, it's probably Matt Ritchie.
8 out of 10 for Matt Ritchie.
On the subject of the Titanic, if you were any character in the Titanic, who would you choose?
That's for another video. That'll be on the spin-off channel.
Whatever floats your boat.
Rob, I'll let you start. Rob, I'll let you start. Rob, I'll let you start with Issac Hayden. I think Lee might have a controversial score if he's going with not doing well in the first half of the season and doing better in the second half of the season. However, the way he's played, especially with Longstaff and developing Longstaff, and we'll touch about him later on in the show. Do you think Issac Hayden deserves a really high mark?
Really high mark, maybe. High mark, yes. I like the way how he bounced back from that sending off against Cardiff. That must have been really difficult, given his personal situation and the flashes that he got from the fans for that sending off against Cardiff. And trying to get back into Rafa's good books is no easy task, as we know. So I think he's had to overcome so much over the past year, and then to come out after Christmas and be incredibly professional, and to, along with that, put in brilliant performances as well. I mean, hey, at the end of the Manchester City game, Guardiola said, we couldn't handle the 2 centre mids.
That's a fair point. And Paul,
Guardiola, the last time Manchester City dropped points in the league,
it was against Newcastle.
The day we handed Liverpool the title and they bottled it and handed it back to Man City, unfortunately.
Do you think, Paul? But do you think, Paul, that that's a fair point? The fact that Guardiola said that we couldn't handle Longstaff, and particularly Hayden, he doesn't really get the credit he deserves for that performance. I think obviously people look at the likes of Longstaff, and rightly so. But maybe that Hayden performance was something that maybe we didn't expect from Newcastle fans.
I think he's benefited from starting poorly and finishing really strong. If it was the other way around, I think the scores would be a lot lower. Because obviously it's all fresh in our minds how he's been playing recently. What he did earlier in the season was totally and utterly unprofessional, uncalled for, not good enough, and I didn't want to see it, and I said so at the time quite loudly. I was also quite loudly saying at the time, I will eat humble pie, because the second half of the season...
Pie!
Yeah, pie. He's been absolutely fantastic.
Get the pie.
He's knuckled down, but at the end of the day, you expect that when they paid so much money. I know he's got the family situation. We will sell him on for a huge profit, I've no doubt about that. Lee Charnley will already be counting the pound notes, no doubt. But yeah, he's been really good. He's going to be a big miss next season, to be fair. But I think Rafa come out and said after the season that he signed him, and he saw a potential for an England international in him when he signed him at the time. We've signed him young. He's just coming into the best years I've no doubt that if he continues like this, he will get into that England squad. As soon as he moves to a London club, let's face it, he's going to get a call.
I mean, on his day, like you compare him to like Eric Dyer and like people in his position.
Yeah.
Like he's so much better. He proved that against Man City. Like it's just a case of whether he can put them performances together.
He treated them like bitches, didn't he?
Yeah.
He gave them no respect, and that's the top and bottom of it. He went in there. He had everything to prove, and he put everything on the table, everything on the plate. And he went for it, and he did it, and whereby we would have got maybe a couple of million for him if we'd sold him in January.
Brighton were talking about 10 at the start of the season, 10 million. I was like, great.
So now you've got to be talking above 20.
Speaking of high, 3.1459265.
We'll be editing them out, Rob.
Let's talk about the mark. I'll start one off for Isaac, and I'm going to go 8. Does anyone disagree?
I'll agree 8 because he was sent off. Couldn't get in that first team, and then he came out twice saying that he wanted to leave. Totally different player in January, but luckily he got on that side because of injury. I would have scored him a 10 out of 10 that second half, but because of the first half, I'm going to knock him down to an 8.
Everybody in agreement with 8?
8
out of 10 for Isaac Hayden. Let's continue with Paul's favourite player from the Nottingham Forest game, Christian Atsu. Take away the Forest game aside, obviously we're going Reds.
I can't get past that.
But that's just Paul from a
counselling for it,
Desperate for us to have a cup run, and then we travel all the way down to Nottingham Forest thinking cup run. You don't know how many.
Long live the Corsa.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in pieces.
Wasn't that the last trip with the course as well?
Yeah,
it was. So just say what cup run the car died.
Yeah, and it's just like I would give anything for a cup run, and then to see Christian Atsu look like he put a pair of no lace up boots on, and honestly, I mean, I said before about pushing the shopping trolley round for Manquillo. That lad's performance in that game was even worse. He might have been counting the blades of grass on the pitch down at this the mighty City ground or whatever they want to call it now.
But Paul, do you maybe look at maybe the last home game of the season? Scored a goal against Liverpool. Last away game of the season, last game of the season against Fulham, had a part of play in the second goal.
He's like Santa though, isn't he? He only does it in little bits. Normally, around Christmas time, he comes alive. He loves it. He loves wrapping gifts up. He loves Christmas time, but then any of the other part of the season, he just goes missing. And sometimes I'll sit there and just watch him away from the action, and I just think you might as well be reading a book or something like that, because you're doing nothing to influence the game. I think towards the end he had a couple of okay performances. He scored a few goals. But if I'm thinking about like predecessors and stuff like that, when you're talking about the Lauren Roberts or somebody like that, the Ginolas, I want somebody who's actually capable of producing moments of magic, and Atsu isn't that. He's got his limitations. I think he is a championship quality player.
But maybe that's just testament to how well he's doing in the Premier League with Rafa, because Rafa still picks him.
That long, Henny.
But defensively, Lee, I think he does a good. Defensively, he does a good job. Rafa trusts him defensively to do a job, especially away from home, and we've managed to pick up points because of him playing in that position.
I've said this to 1 year already, or a couple of years, that when his pace starts to go, I think he'll be converted to a left back in his older career. He works hard, but I'm with Paul. He offers nothing going forward. You may
strike fear into defences, does he?
He doesn't get enough assists. He doesn't get enough goals. Defensively, awesome. If you want to play, if you're trying to set up a point away from home, awesome. Put Atsu in front of you. But going forward, I've got to score him low. I've got to give him a 4.
The thing is, so he's got it in him. Like, he proved it against Liverpool. Like, he's against Andrew Robertson, who's been the best left back in the league by far this season. And he gets at him. He's direct. He's not afraid of him. And he had Atsu's. Well, he had Robertson's life. Do you know what I mean? He made Robertson really work, which is something that Robertson hasn't had much this season. He's run wingers round in circles, but Atsu had him on toast, and it's hard to believe, because it's Atsu.
Wrong coming, because that was just
talk about him a little bit later.
Great person. He does loads of charity work. He's got things that he's doing back in his home country. Fantastic, and you commend him for that. But if we're talking about football and skills, I think he's a limited footballer. Sorry, to me, he's got to be around the 5 or 6. It's not been great. I'd probably say 5.
I'll say 4.
I'd say 5.
5. We'll go 5. Just been outnumbered on that one. So Lee, Lee, I'm going to let you start with who you probably wouldn't have even realised actually played football for Newcastle until probably about November, and that's Sung-Yueng. He's been key before Rob starts in some games, but
This is what I have to put up with.
but there hasn't been any locks that he's had to deal with to open in some games towards the back end of the season where he was very, very poor. That was probably the worst pun ever, to be honest. But we'll leave.
Next you're going to say he's so young.
Yeah, well, key.
You just give it late editing word at this point.
Well, we're going to go with for Key Sung-Yueng because when he plays, there's nobody better than keeping the ball, is there?
Missing Asian Cup, injured, back on international duty. When he got in the starting 11, because it took a while for him to get on and break in.
Yeah, Chris Shelby was trusted.
He was bringing the ball forward, which we lacked because we were losing games. We were struggling, and that was like, well, hold a minute, this is a good player, I can get with 10 yards forward. But then he got injured, went away. He was in and out at the end of the season. I just think it's been an up and down season. So 6.
Shelby though, you can say Key has had games where you can say he's won with that. He won with the game against Watford, and he played a massive part in the Bournemouth win. So I'd say 6 is fair. Even 7 if you.
Yeah, 6. I would say 6.
I think as a footballer, for him, it's been a good career choice.
6 out of 10 for Key Sung-Yueng, and
in the comments.
this is what we have to deal with every single week. Welcome back, guys. Apologies for maybe the camera and the audio to be slightly different towards the end of this player ratings video, but technology. It's all about technology, isn't it?
It's gone, unfortunately, so we have to use the Mac.
And you'll be glad to know that doesn't affect my joke telling.
Oh my god. Right, so we're going to go back to Kennedy, because that was the last player that we started talking about. And Kyle, my question was, a player that we've had on loan now for 18 months, the first 6 months, we couldn't really ask much more of him. But I think ever since that penalty miss against Cardiff, second game of the season, I think psychologically it's killed him really in football in terms. How have you rated his season overall?
He's been shocking, hasn't it? Like I touched on it earlier, but his season's just been shocking. Like if you have a comparison with the season before and this season, it's just been absolutely terrible. He's went from the potential, the next big Brazilian winger, to he went from Ronaldinho to like Adrian, who Leeds had a couple of years ago. That's like the comparison of how bad he went, how far he's fallen. But in terms of your question about the Cardiff game, I think he was the worst person that could have took that penalty, because he had a shocking game. He should have been sent off. He didn't complete a pass in the first half. He got tackled every time he had the ball. I mean, the list goes on with the Cardiff game, mate. It wasn't the penalty that killed him psychologically. It was just that all game he was shit, and they give him a penalty, and his penalty was shit. So it's like Rob, can't use as an excuse for me.
Can't, but Rob, do you feel that we've seen the best of Kennedy in the last 18 months and he's no better than what we've really got?
I think that's right. But I just think with Kennedy, someone needs to tell him, if they haven't already, that the winning team in a football match is the team with the most goals, not the most skills.
Yeah, it's not FIFA, is it? It's not FIFA, it's actual.
He just does skills for the sake of doing skills. Yeah. There's no sense of good quality end product to it. He just sort of does it for his own fulfillment. He takes on a player and then he goes back and does it again just for the sake of beating him again.
Say he's playing Panama game, a FIFA Street where you've got to make a couple of players to win the game or something.
Yeah.
All fur coat, no knickers, isn't it? And the previous season, he's like driving a Ferrari, and then it's like finding out that we've signed a Toyota Yaris or something like that. It's been that big of a drop off. I mean, again, he's become a father. His personal life is obviously playing a part of it, but he's been absolutely just a crock of shit all season, hasn't he? Well, he hasn't had any. What highlights has he had?
He's got one highlight. He set up Rondon's goal against Bournemouth, the header. That's the one thing he's done this season.
I'm going 3 out of 10, Lee. Would you go any higher or lower?
I'm gonna go lower. Lower than a 6? No, I think I'm gonna go 2, because I think he's already touched upon what he has. Another thing is to point out, his social media, he needs to sort his act. He's said he was maturing, but he's posting stuff when he's driving and a wheel and stuff on his phone and that, and posting running around half 12 out of the quayside, you know what I mean? So sort that out. I'm pleased he's gone, and that's no disrespect to him, but
might loan him back yet.
Nah, we won't. But yeah, 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10, Paul. 3 out of 10, lower.
I wouldn't have even give 2. I mean, it has been really, really bad. Maybe even a 1. He's honestly, what has he done? Like you say,
Nothing.
he's laid on one goal. His head's not been in the game, and I just I mean, Chelsea, they wanted £30 million.
They still want 30 million. The way he's played this season, I wouldn't give them 30 quid.
Nah.
Chelsea's transfer ban, they'll keep him.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Because
got no choice.
Not because of that transfer ban. They need to keep.
I think they've got better wingers there. I think they've got the likes of
Emerson
that are all better than Kennedy. Kennedy's gone for me, and I think he'll go back to Brazil.
Atsu's been better this season, and that's saying something, isn't it?
Jacob Murphy's been better, and we flogged him to West Brom. Like that's all you need to know about how bad Kennedy's been this season.
2 out of 10 it is for Kennedy. We'll quickly touch on Jacob Murphy. Only really played the first half of the season. Does he deserve a mark?
Yes.
Does he though? Because he's
half a season, loaned out, poor. Doesn't seem suited for Newcastle, the Premier League. However, that wing back, you never know. He could be all right in that. Maybe you want to look at that. You've got to look at it though. Maybe pre-seasons.
Do we judge new signings though too quickly? Do we need, looking at like the Tovans and stuff of this world? Do we need to give the likes of Murphy more time before we?
Saying that he wasn't great with them, so his future has a massive circle around it, and maybe gets converted to right wing back. That's the only way he's going to get into this side. But
I think it's a case where we've just got to hold our hands up as a club and say we're cocked up when we paid 12.5 million for him, because I know he's local and I know he supports the team and that, but
I think it is a quick judgment to make. I know he's been awful this season. I'd perhaps try and get him involved in the deal around Rondon, so whether they get him for another season on loan and they take Gale as well or something like that.
I'll probably take that.
But he's sadly not up to the job, certainly at the moment at Newcastle.
Mark wise, what we're going to give him?
4.
There was there's a moment in the season for me that sums Murphy up. Like, I think it was against Blackburn away. A player goes past him and he just lets him through. Whereas if, like Lee touched on, he might become a good wing back. If he had something like that, where he's just letting the player through and just not bothering to track his man, like, do you know what I mean? That's bad. Whereas a Ritchie, if he gets beat, he'll look
sensational against Everton. The away game, that assist as well, he was brilliant, but he came in from the cold. But the thing is, also, he's never had the run of games as well. He'll come in for one, then he's missing for 3.
That's why it's critical. So whatever move he gets next, I mean, West Brom, he's been in and out and he hasn't had much game time. He needs a run of games like he had back at was it Norwich, to see what's going to happen with this lad's career. I don't think we can use him up here at the moment. Let's put him in some sort of deal. Let's get him out there, get some game time, and maybe make a decision on him in another year. I don't think I'd sell him, but I think I'd look for a good loan move.
3 or 4? What we're going with?
4.
We'll go 4 out of 10 for Jacob Murphy. And now we're going to talk about a player that will definitely not get a 4 out of 10, and that is, well, he's one of our own, especially for me and Kyle as a Shields lad, and that is Sean Longstaff. We're filming this as Sky has just reported that Manchester United are linked with Sean Longstaff. I think a lot of Premier League teams, the top 6 will be linked with Sean Longstaff, so that's no real surprise. But if we're talking about this season, my dad, I'm going to give a shout out to my dad actually, because we spoke about this on the way in. In every game that Sean Longstaff's played, the majority of the time he's been man of the match, in my opinion, in my dad's opinion. I thought that was quite a good point actually, because you look at the games that he's played, he's made a big impact, but I think the breakthrough was the cup game that me, Paul, Kyle, was all 5 of us there? That replay? At Blackburn, yeah. Mark well as well. So Rob wasn't there. So apart from hello, Darkness, my old friend, kind of thing, we'll just be on that one. Like,
but it's a bit difficult, sort of stepping into his shoes.
More like wellies.
But yeah, let's talk about Sean Longstaff. I'm going to use Forley's quote: "Michael Carrick reincarnated." It does remind you of that, Paul, doesn't he?
It does, yeah. I'll just correct you first of all. I think he's Rotherham's own, isn't he? Officially.
Don't give me that.
Officially, I'm just well, why the guy?
It's your Yorkshire roots coming back out again, is it?
Well, the thing is, I said about he's from Shields and stuff like that to some of the people I know down there, and they were like, no, he's not. He's Yorkshire born and bred. I got all that straight away. But he's been an absolute, breath of fresh air, hasn't he? He's been fantastic. He's come in with zero expectations. Nobody thought he'd be able to do anything at all, and he looks like he's been doing it for absolutely donkey's years, doesn't he? He looks so composed on the ball, and I was absolutely gutted when he came off against West Ham, wasn't it? and there was that whole Rice v Longstaff thing that some...
Forget about that, Paul. How well's he been playing before that West Ham game there?
He's been absolutely brilliant. I think we need to build a team around him. We need to stop him. I don't think he's going to want to go to any Man United or anything like that. I think he's going to want to stay here. He's going to get game time next season. He knows he's loved by the support, and you can see he's genuinely taken back by it all.
If he sticks around, he'll go on to captain the club.
Yeah.
If he sticks around for years on end.
For him to go to Man U anyway, like what they're doing these days. I mean,
so it's still the name. If I'm playing devil's advocate, it's still the name. It's Manchester United to play with those players as well.
Clubs are actually linked to him. It shows how well he's progressing.
Yeah.
You know, I think the big thing in pre-season was Rafa taking him away from the under-23s, moving him into the pre-season first team because he scored against St. Pat's in pre-season, and he was just, ever since then, he was with the first team all season. Played an odd couple of games in the under-23s, had an odd couple of cup games. He was just waiting for his chance, and he got his chance, and he was sensational. It's just unfortunate that he got injured, and I will continue my theme with that, unfortunately, but if he didn't get injured, I would have scored a 10 out of 10 for him, but I'm going to give him a 9. Sensational.
Do you think that Man City performance, Kyle, in general, deserves a 10 out of 10 performance?
of course it does. I mean, I think we give him a 10 in the player ratings that day. He was fantastic. I mean, for Pep Guardiola to come out and praise you when it's one of his first Premier League starts. I mean, his first 4 or 5 Premier League starts he played against Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Tottenham, and he didn't look out of place, man. Honestly, he didn't. And then when it came to the likes of when he played against Huddersfield and teams like that, he just shone. And honestly, next year I'm telling you, it's the year the Longstaff repping up there in A29. But enough about where he's from and things like that. But honestly, season fantastic.
Robbie got his first goal against Burnley, first goal in the league against Burnley. Obviously, he got the goal against Blackburn in the cup. In front of the 52,000 at St James's. Not much better feeling, is there?
So pleased for him to get that goal before getting injured. Absolutely chuffed for him. And I think this next season is going to be a crucial season for him because, I mean,
all eyes are on him, aren't they? All eyes next year.
Yeah, at the moment we're raving about him in the same way that this time last year we were raving over Kennedy, and look how that turned out. So he needs, I think next season, he needs to prove to himself more than anything that this wasn't just a one-off. That run of form wasn't just a one-off. He needs to prove that he can consistently keep that run of form going.
To be fair though, with the amount of work rate he puts in, the amount he runs, like even if he doesn't set up to the standards that he has been, the work ethic's there, and he's a determined lad. He will get there. Like.
So Lee's gone 9. Does anybody go 10, or do you think 9's a fair mark?
It's fair. I think 10's very biased.
No, 9 out of 10 for Sean Longstaff. The next player is Newcastle's now current record sign, because Newcastle stayed up. Obviously, £21 million for Miguel Almiron. Courtesy of Barclays, but that's for another video, I think. Maybe a Paul Facebook video. The link will be in the description for Facebook as well. Miguel Almiron, I'm going to go with Lee. Since he's come in, no goals, but a real threat, and the pace of Miguel Almiron and the work rate is what you want to see in a black and white shirt, isn't it?
I think it's also affected Rondon and Perez as well, not just himself. We've got a new dimension. We've got something now to look forward to and get excited about. These three, assuming all three stay with us next year. Really, really good. We can get on the counter, we can play a wing back, we can attack. With chances have shot up with Almiron coming in, the lad himself. No nonsense. Probably needs to work on his finishing, if I'm being a little bit negative, because he seemed a bit rushed. But he was scissored in his first 2 games, got up with it and thought, you know what, that's fine by me, I'll get up, and he kept getting hacked. But yeah, he's a massive threat. He's still got a few more levels to go, but it's early signs in these 10-11 games that he's played that we've got a real threat next year. And I wouldn't score massively high, because I don't think him personally set the world alight himself, but other rounds him he has. But give him a 7. I think it's got a lot more to go.
Paul, do you think maybe the emotion of the Southampton injury just shows how much he cares to be doing well for Newcastle? And again, we haven't really seen them. He looks like the Sissokos and the players like that who didn't really care for the club. It's nice to see we've actually got a team that cares.
I think he can see the affection that the fans had straight away for him, and it was just that instant. It was like a gush of pure emotion. That we signed somebody for all that money, and then the love that was sort of given to him by all the support and stuff like that, I think really, really, really hooked him. It really, really has. I think he's been a fantastic signing. I think he's pushed us further up the pitch. I think the opposition have to have at least 1 or 2 people on him. He's so quick, and the way he moves over the surface, I still can't really describe how it is. It's a very unique style, but he moves so quickly, directly. And I think next season, I think he will add goals to his game as well.
There's no doubt, is there?
You can see why. Obviously, they were gutted over in America when he left them, and obviously they had a bit of a dip in performance, didn't they, as well? They were gutted, but yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon with Almiron, and I think next season, it can be absolutely fantastic. And like Lee said, he's totally transformed the way that we play. I think he's allowed Perez to get a little bit more space, Perez to be further up and stuff as well. It's legs for Rondon as well, so because obviously he's not the quickest and stuff. It's just all round, he just ticks so many of the boxes. And where I said about Atsu and his lack and his ceiling height, you just feel with Almiron, the sky's the limit. He can do anything he wants to. He could go on if he continues in this sort of rich vein onto an even higher club or higher position or whatever. But I'm just really, really thankful that we've got him in the team.
Definitely. And Rob, you look at those performances, particularly against Huddersfield, against Everton. I thought he played well against Leicester as well. Is this the sort of player that Rafa's been begging for the last 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, he's just such a massive injection of excitement, and the chances that he creates gives the fans so much to look forward to going forward. Because I remember before we signed him, up until about mid-January, before the Cardiff game that ended 3-0, before then, I mean, whenever we went forward, they'd just come up to a point where we just run out of ideas, and we just seem at a loss and just sort of we'd only just be scraping wins. Whereas from that Cardiff win, and thanks to Almiron, that came a couple of weeks after, so pleased with the amount of chances that he's creating and the way that he's getting the best out of Rondon and Perez. And like Paul says, it's the sky's the limit. And
it's the intelligence, isn't it? He's got an intelligence that likes to. And it's not being disrespectful, but like the Christian Atsu just don't have. He's got it inside of him. He's got that flair. It gets you on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen. Is it a cross? Is it a shot? Is he going to try a trick? And then it's like a trick with purpose, where like Kennedy will just faff about and end up losing the ball. He'll do something and it'll just pay off. You'll win a free kick. Something how always happens when he's got that football, and it's that exciting part of it, unlike the likes of Atsu, where you just think, oh god, he's going to give it away again.
It's like when he's on the ball in a dangerous position, something's going to happen, but you don't know specifically what, so you're just on tenterhooks wanting to find out.
Give me a rating.
I'm going 7.
I'll go 7.
7.
8.
8 for me.
Just being outnumbered, the two.
Right,
Sorry lads, but it's 7 out of 7. It's high 7. We'll go 7. Well, 7.5. We've been kind, but we'll go 7. Issac Perez, my player of the year. Just for more of the second half performance of the season, I think he's gone up another level. But like I said at the start, this last season, we need to see a big improvement from Issac Perez. We have seen it, but it's been about 6 months too late. But if you're looking from a tale of two halves, the amount of goals he scored, he's Newcastle's, I think, joint top scorer in the Premier League with Rondon. You have to say him and Rondon, when they've been working together, do a real threat. And that goal against Brighton, I don't think he would have scored last season, and he was in the right position and he puts it in the top stanchion. Again, I'm going to say it, it's a big season for Issac Perez. He hasn't been named in the Spain squad, which will be a big disappointment for him. However, if he keeps on putting performances like that at the start of next season and does it for a full season, he'll walk into the Spain team. For me, Issac Perez is going to get a 9 out of 10 for me. Anybody disagree?
I'll say 8 because of his first half of the season. First half, I think, was poor, and a lot of people, including, as I was saying earlier on, when we were interviewing fans, there was several that were on his back because he went missing. He wasn't holding on to the ball. He was getting knocked.
Nathan hates him, didn't he?
Yeah, Nathan. He was getting knocked. He wasn't holding on to the ball. He was twisting the referee. He was being nudged. He was being elbowed. Get on with it, man. Get on with it.
All of this as well at first.
That grew on me though.
It grew as it went on. But at the beginning, it was just like, cut the attitude, Jose, and get on with the job. And it's like, stop going down, stop bitching, stop complaining, stop whining to refs. That first part of the season, there was too much bitching, too much.
Got 2 goals, wasn't he?
Yeah, too much.
Christmas.
Too much, just literally hissy fits. throwing his arms in the air, being on the floor and then not getting up and chasing back. There was too much of that. But if you cut it in half, again, he's another one who's benefited from a strong end of the season and a bit of an inconsistency.
His form as well.
And he does. He's helped create extra space for him. But am I saying, do we need him in the team next season? Yes, I would. I would definitely keep him. But has he been up and down this season?
He has.
Most definitely. But his goals towards the end of the season have just been an absolute just joy. And
again, it's similar to like Longstaff and Hayden. If you're rating the second half of the season, you would give him a 10. But because what's happened before, you would knock that down a little bit.
And Kyle, let's talk about his goals. Hat-trick against Southampton, the goal against Leicester. I think that's underrated. That header, by the way. You know, it's an all range of goals. The goal against Brighton, he's unlucky not to get a goal against Liverpool. Scores against Fulham, tap-ins. You know, has it been an improvement by Jose Perez this season? If you look at his form outside of last season, maybe the back end of last season.
Of course it has. I mean, leading up to Christmas last year, he was shocking. People were calling him for him to leave in January. I mean, he was a scapegoat for a lot of that season. I think he's proved a lot of doubters wrong in the second half of the season. But it's like a reverse Kennedy, really. Like last season, Kennedy was all right, and then this season he's been terrible. Perez, for the majority of like the first half of the season, was awful, and then he's turned into this. It's hard to believe that they're the same player, because like honestly, it's just I think Nathan touched upon it in fan cams earlier and half of the season. Like if we were to sell him, we'd be lucky to get less than 10 million for him. But the way he's playing at the minute, you could probably get more. I mean, like, do you know what I mean?
A lot more than 15. Yeah, a lot more.
You've got to have consistency over a season, though. Like it's not like
right now. If we sold Perez, it'll be double in 15.
His stocks high to 10 goals in 2019, but yeah, I'd agree in 8.
Anybody disagree? 8 or 9? What would you go with, Rob?
8 at the very most for me.
I think 8. Yeah, 8. But I would say again, if we were to sell him, it would be over 30 million.
I think a big thing about him, of course, we say consistency and patience among football fans of any club. You know, it's never an infinite amount of patience, is it? I mean, so he's got to prove to himself that next season he doesn't have another first half of the season like he did this season just gone.
That's if he stays so, because it's the end of the cycle.
It is, but 8 out of 10 is what we've gone for Isaac Perez. Get in the comments if you disagree or not with that. Hostler is next. Hostler scored against Hostler scored against Tottenham, scored against Chelsea. You know, two teams
offside goal against Blackburn.
Offside goal against Blackburn. He scored
against Chelsea and scored against Tottenham. Just give me
but he scored against two teams who are finished in the top 4. Playing devil's advocate.
He's played for Real bloody Madrid.
Scored on his debut for them.
Yeah, you're making him sound great.
You know, if you said to somebody, this lad, he's come from Real Madrid, he's scored, he can score against Spurs, he can score against Chelsea, you'd be thinking, oh God, he must be an absolute huge great player. Then you said, no, actually it's just a Lou. They'd be like, what? And it's like, I know he started the season well, and he's one of our players, and every time he crosses that white line, I would support him 100% through gritted teeth. Right? Through gritted teeth.
Is his hold-up play though, Paul, the biggest disappointment? Yes, I'm saying is that his lack of a hold-up play and the spatial awareness around him his biggest disappointment, because Rondon, when he gets the ball, he looks like he knows what he's doing. Hostler, you think 1 out of 10 he's going to do that well.
I keep thinking, does he have peg legs or something like that? Honestly, he's absolutely tripe. He's absolutely tripe. There's nothing. I know he scored a few goals, and it makes it ironic. But he needs to go. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200.
He was very close to going in January, wasn't he?
Send him to Mayfair.
Anywhere at all.
Anything higher than a 3, Paul?
Mugged us off.
Anything higher than a 3 out of 10 from? Or was that the low? Is that being very, very optimistic?
Who's done more, him or Mutu though?
That's an argument, isn't it? That's the next person we're talking about, by the way.
To be fair, because you're going to have people whinging and bitching on and stuff like this in the comments. He's done this, he's scored, and he's a professional and he tries his best. I don't doubt, every time he speaks, he says the right things, and I'm sure that he can't believe his luck to land at St James's Park. And he seems a nice lad, and he's a family man, and he seems all of that. I'm not questioning that.
What's your mark out of 10 for him?
Mark out of 10 on his footballing ability alone, I think would be a 1.
Kyle?
being generous because I want to say 0.
Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, to echo what Paul said, I think he every time he does step out for Newcastle United, he does give his all, like 100% every time. It's just a case of the quality there. I mean, I think any striker, and most strikers in the Premier League would have struggled to get ahead of Rondon this season. Yeah. So it has been a case like Shelvey, like Clearon Clark, like Fernandes. He's fell through the cracks a bit and had a bit of bad luck in not getting into the team because there's been other players that have stepped up and performed to a higher standard than he can.
Rafa mustn't even rate him, because I mean, even when Rondon's travelled halfway around the world, Rondon's walked straight back into that team, and you know that Rafa likes to tinker them after the international games. He's walked straight back into it because he's looked and he's thought, I've got Joselu.
To be fair though, Paul, he did play Joselu a lot last season over Mitrovic, so it just shows how much he rates Rondon to keep Rondon in that team, because there was times last season where you think, right, this is the time you pick Mitrovic. No, he put Joselu in ahead. I know that upset a lot of supporters at the time, me included, but Rafa likes the work rate of Joselu over perhaps a Mitrovic. That's why he's went and got better in Rondon. And unfortunately for Joselu, I know he's not the greatest player, but with how good Rondon's been for Newcastle, he just hasn't been able to get ahead. Mutu's included in that as well.
I'm going 3 out of 10. Lee, what would you give him?
He's better than Kennedy this season, so 3.
And what do you say, Rob?
3.
So it's 3. You've been outnumbered, Paul, unfortunately. 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 for Hosler. We've got 2 players left. We've got Yoshinori Muto. Lee, you touched about that. He's not really done as much as Kennedy. Hasn't really done as much as Hosler, but he did score against Man United. Is that all he's done this season?
Kennedy did as well.
The thing is with Mutu, you take away when he was called away from international duty, he's been available all season. He hasn't been able, sometimes, not even get a place on the bench. So that's a problem in itself. Hoslu's keeping Mutu off the bench, not all the time.
He gets a 10 out of 10 for me just for that. Just for that.
Yes, he scored. I think I wouldn't sell him. I'll have him another year to see what he can do, but because he can play in several positions. But there's a lot more to come. He's been so poor, and if I'm scoring Hoslu,
that he's been poor though, Lee, so he hasn't had the chance to prove.
Yeah. But that tells you something about training. That tells you something about training, that Rafa's looking at thinking Hoslu's better than you. So because of that, I think they're both similar. Score levels 3 out of 10 for Mutu.
Rob, what do you make of Muto this season?
I like the lad.
There's so much more to come in there.
Yeah,
there is talent there.
We haven't seen the full article of him this season. I mean, it's just so unfortunate that as soon as he moves off to the Asia Cup, Rondon has all of a sudden stepped it up several gears in his own play, and that has kept him out.
Is that an
Perez as well.
Are we all in agreement? 3 out of 10.
I think it's a fair score. I mean, if you've seen him from when he played for, obviously before Rose, there was a cracking player there. You saw it in little, you see it in little bits, don't you? When he has made his brief sub appearances, you saw it against Manchester United. There is a player there. We've just got to get him integrated and settled into our system, our way of playing, to really get the best out of him. And I agree. I wouldn't.
The good thing is, so if Perez does walk in the summer and go elsewhere, there is someone there to step up, and I think Mutu could do that job. I really do. Like, he proved it at Mainz when he played in Germany that he's capable of scoring maybe 12-15 goals a season. And honestly, he is a proper talented lad. I just hope they don't sell him and give him a lower grade because of what we've seen of him so far. Because he's proved at Old Trafford, and he's proved in little glimpses that the work ethic there is a determined lad. He even put on his Instagram the other day that he's determined to get back next season. He's not going to have a sour taste in the mouth of Newcastle supporters. He's going to work hard and really get amongst it next season. I really want him to do well next season.
Next season ahead for Yoshinori Muto. 3 out of 10 is what we've given him. We've got 1 player left, and he's the club's player of the season. The club's player of the season. I think you'd have to say the most fans would agree is the player of the season, and he's Newcastle's number 9, even though he's gone back to West Brom now. Is Solomon Rondon. Again, joint top goal scorer in the Premier League with Perez. All round throughout the whole season, you'd have to say he's been very, very consistent. And Rob, I'm going to let you start this one off.
No.
Oh, you're gonna let Kyle? Yeah. Kyle, how imperative is it that Lee Charnley, Mike Ashley, Rafa Benitez, as soon as they can get Rafa's contract sorted out, the first thing is getting Solomon Rondon, because it seems Wolves are very, very interested and they're not afraid of spending the cash.
If they don't bring Rondon in, it's a crime against football. Like, honestly, it is. Like, he's been so good for Newcastle this season, and I'll say it, he's been my personal favourite number 9 since Shearer left. Honestly, he's been that.
Big statement when you look at some of the players we've had.
Like, you might say like Barn, people like that, but
pornography in there.
Honestly, Rondon's big beautiful man. The general play of that bloke is unbelievable. It's not just his goals, his assists, it's his contribution in general. His hold up play.
It's all this place second to none, isn't it?
Can you name a better striker in the league that can hold the ball as good as him?
He taught Messi how to do it, didn't he?
Yeah. He even pictured with a fan like Messi the other month, but no, he's been absolutely brilliant for Newcastle, mate. Honestly, he contributed 46% of our goals this season. Loads of assists for a striker. He's linked up with Perez, Almiron recently. He's just brilliant, mate. It's vital we'll bring him in next season. And with West Brom staying in the Championship, 16.5 million is a snip, because if Raul Jimenez, the one Wolves have just
double the price
for a similar player, you've got to go and get a player like that.
Paul, £16.5 million for a player that's probably half the price for Raul Jimenez that Wolves have spent. Wolves aren't afraid to spend the money. We've seen this before. How much will we miss Solomon Rondon if, say, worst came to the worst and we didn't have him in a Newcastle shirt next season, because he is our focal point for most of our attacks, isn't he?
He's literally everything. If Lee Charney does not get this done, he is proof of the fact that the human gene pool needs a lifeguard. Come on, it's the most simplest decision in the world. You're going to get 8 million Joslu's being lined up for, right? Double that gets you Rondon. With what he's done, the goals, the presence, the work rate, bringing other players in. Some of the goals he's scored, again, pure and utter filth.
He even wants to stay as well, because
the Liverpool one, even that.
He's so much happier in a Newcastle shirt than he ever was in a West Brom
he's had his best Premier League season at Newcastle, and that's
he fits the model, though, doesn't he? He fits into Rafa's system perfectly.
Yeah, he does.
So like he's literally like been designed for it, and it's a no-brainer. If he goes to Wolves,
if he goes anywhere else but Newcastle, it's a crime, like.
Yeah, it is. And literally, I mean, I know that Charnley and I know that Ashley are stupid, but even stupid people would be able to get this.
Charnley's got to earn his extra dollar that he's extra bonuses and things like that.
Yeah.
But Lee, do you think that if I'm playing devil's advocate, because of course I'd like Solomon Rondon to stay, but from the club we've seen it before that he's approaching 30 years of age, £16.5 million for a player that you're probably only going to get 2 years at.
He doesn't look like showing any signs of slowing down, though, does he? He's getting better.
Just somewhat
on the pace, though.
He even said he's like a fine wine. He's
it's the focal point of the attack. He doesn't need. He's not like a Michael Owen when he was in his prime, where he relies on running and relies on pace. For him, it's more about the presence and the bringing others in and the heading ability and the striking of the ball. He wants others around him to have that pace, so he could do a job for Newcastle easily for 3 seasons. If you worked it out per season, 16 million, with some of the money that
5 million roughly a season, basically.
We wasted on the likes of Marcelino, Luque, all these types, and we're squabbling over peanuts. This should have been done ages ago.
It should have been
done ages
ago. Jimenez signed for Wolves towards the end of the season. You'd think Newcastle would do the same.
Lee, is it?
You're not
going to say.
In order to do a permanent deal for West Brom, obviously, it's only just now that West Brom's season has ended, and we know for
Thank you very much, Aston Villa, for that.
I think if West Brom did get, I think if West Brom did get promoted, then the price tag that they would have put on Rondon would have.
Wasn't it? It was 22. I think that was in his contract if West Brom promoted. No. Right, Lee. Let's get you to the question. Right, my question to you, Lee, is that we've seen the club before not do deals. Is there any reason why the club can't do this deal?
I think this deal links him with Rafa's contract extension, which might be a good thing for because if they didn't sign Rondon, did it make Rafa not sign? I think it heavily influences him. I don't think it's the end and be all of everything, but you've got to get this man signed. As long as he's got pace around him, he can play for years. Look at Shearer. Shearer's legs went when he was 27, 28 because of his injuries, and he had Bellamy doing his run, he had Owen doing his running. So as long as he's got pace around like Perez, Almiron, and I think with Almiron in that side, why can't he go and get 20? Because his form picked up better than when all came in. A lot of players did. I wouldn't give him a 10 out of 10, but because I want to see me striker score 20 goals, so I'll give him a 9. Fab season though.
Paul, in one word.
Look at the look I got off you there.
I'm going to actually a word and a number. Okay, a word. Will he be in a Newcastle shirt next season? And your rating from this season?
Yes, and 10.
Kyle?
I hope so, and 10.
Yes or no?
I don't know. Can you trust Lee Charnley?
That's the fine argument, isn't it? Because
it is.
I think he's like medically retarded or something like that. He's that stupid. Is he clinically dead? Nobody knows because we haven't heard from him. There should have been a fans forum in March. That's still not took place. So
Mark's been devastated not seeing his best friend for a couple of months.
I mean, has he been abducted by aliens? Do we need to get him on that alien program on the History Channel? We don't know. Nobody's seen from him. So, but it's a no-brainer, man. Get him signed.
Yes or no, Kyle?
Yes, I mean, got to be.
And Rob, yes or no? And then what are you getting him out of 10?
Yes and 10.
I'm going, yes, he will be in Newcastle shirt. We'll be screaming his name for the number 9, and I'm going to go 10 out of 10. So it's a 10 for Solomon Rodden. Thank you very much for watching. For the player ratings, get your comments in below. Who has been a 10 out of 10 for Newcastle this season? Has anyone been less than a 3, a 2?
Be kind in the comments, please.
Yeah, be kind
it's all
to
about opinions, isn't it?
It's all about opinions, but we're all Newcastle fans at the end of the day. Will Summerond be at Newcastle next season? Just having Chargers over 10 out of 10. Get your comments in below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you at the next video on Newcastle Fans TV.